Welcome to O.P.O.P, the podcast, Operation Protect Our Peace.
I'm Stacey.
I'm Sarah.
Tune into O.P.O.P as we expose all the hard stuff to get to the sweet stuff.
You'll get the truth, plot twists, and the pivots you need to protect your peace.
Life hits hard,
but with God, O.P.O.P hits harder.
Hey, Joy Stealers.
We're coming for you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to O.P.O.P, Operation Protect Our Peace with Stacey and Sarah. Today is episode 22, and we are going to name this Grace in the Wreckage. Sarah, you have some real-time applicable stuff that is going on in your life right now.
I do.
So let's chat about that and what's happened in just the last 10 days.
Okay, last 10 days, so much good stuff has happened. So on Thanksgiving, Jonathan proposed.
Yay!
Who is such a good man. Jonathan, I love you. You're amazing.
Yes,
and so, so he proposed on Thanksgiving Day, which was so fun and beautiful. And it was in Panama. And so that's been such a fun thing to celebrate of he and I while we were there. And then also when we came home, except...
Oh no, it feels like a butt.
Dun, dun, dun. I kind of wanted to crack a joke of of course. And I was like, no, I will not align with that. Bad things will not always happen. But then when we got home, we had to face some things. And so there was a little bit of shadowing and a little bit of a dark cloud after we got engaged. Which you and I chatted about.
Oh, fun. You get to practice Grace in the Wreckage.
Yeah.
So I've been there too, where I've had people in my life that I'm very close to. And it was kind of one of those where they felt at liberty to really give opinions or even advice unsolicited. Mm-hmm. And while wisdom we're open to, it was out of balance of, why do people think they can tell me what to do and not do? Yeah. And if it doesn't align, then I'm wrong or bad. So update us kind of how that went
on why the black cloud exists.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
So we got engaged. It was so positive, amazing, wonderful. We came back. And I went back and forth on, okay, how do I protect my peace in this? Because there are two categories of ways that my peace will get rocked. And one is sharing that with my family, which I will go into later. And then two, it was also sharing it with some friends that I've moved from the inner circle to the outer circle. And there's two reasons for that. There's a group of friends that I've moved from the inner circle to the outer circle, one based off of some unhealthy past tendencies and codependency relationships. And the other group that I moved out to the outer circle was just because of capacity, where I moved to Utah, and unless they were flying up and really showing up, and I wasn't seeing them week to week or month to month, I didn't have the capacity to have a pen pal and to have 6 pen pals, 7 pen pals, because all my efforts when I moved to Utah were making sure I had community physically present, finding a good church, finding friends to become family. And so unless they flew up or unless they made time to see me while I was in California, I just didn't have the ability to, have phone calls all the time with them. Because when I used to be healthy pre-hospital, I would walk and make phone calls. But then once the hospital hit, I didn't have the capacity to do walks. So I was resting or sleeping. So fast forward with the different friend shift and dynamic shift with those two friend groups. When I was going back and forth, I'm like, I want to include and tell everyone and share with everyone the exciting news. But I also was kind of like, do I share it with some of these people? Because in the past, we used to have some dynamic where it was high control, because some of the friends that have been in my life, they've seen a lot of trauma. And because of that, they feel like a sense of entitlement and a sense of access to my life, where they feel like, well, you should do what my opinion says, or if I tell you you shouldn't do A through Z, you shouldn't do it. So if I do it anyway, then it causes conflict or a little bit of turmoil, because they're like, what do you mean I don't have control over your decision making? And so I kind of moved some of those friends into a different circle, and I thought that maybe it'd be different. I hadn't talked to them in a while, and I included them, and they still kind of had the same perspective. And so I had to face, when I got back, some conversations with some people who had a hard time celebrating Jonathan's and my engagement, because their response was, well, I don't know him. How can I celebrate? I don't know him. And in both circles, right? Some because they were unhealthy, and then others because they also don't know him, because they haven't visited me and they haven't put effort out and they haven't shown up. And I don't say that in a way where it's like, how dare you, you're a bad friend. It's more of truly just a reality. Everyone has a different capacity, and that's what they couldn't do last year. And so because of that, coming back from a really positive thing, I wasn't having to engage with some difficult conversations and also not be irritated or resentful or like, okay, way to make it about you. And so I had to work through that and be gracious to them, regardless of some of it being unhealthy and some of it being also like an actual fact, like, yeah, you don't know him. And so I had to explain to them, which I'll explain to our listeners in general. This last year, I went on a huge Operation Protect my peace with my relationship with Jonathan. And so I made sure to actually not give access to anyone, Jonathan's in my relationship. So I barely posted, I barely talked about him, unless, Stacey or, other people that are in Utah and see us week to week and day to day that actually know him. Because in the past, people would try and cast judgment on me or project their own fears on me in the form of my relationship. And it would just kind of mess with my mind a little bit. And so I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to just have it be God, Holy Spirit, Jesus, Jonathan, and myself. And then my very, very few, which you're included, very, very few people that know him and know us, that they can have access and they can give me wisdom because they actually know us. And so that's
actually a very fine line between feeling like, oh, so you didn't let us know him. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And you actually took a really healthy step in going, no, I used to give anyone access to my life.
Yes.
And it was confusing. And now I move in a very healthy direction, which is smart.
You literally nailed one of the content paragraphs. It literally says gave too much access. And that's what I did. It was like I would tell everyone everything, and I was too transparent, and not too transparent. I was transparent with too many people and not the right people, not the safe people. And because of that, it was like, ooh, it was not good.
So you're really practicing grace for you.
Yeah. Yes. Totally.
So whether anyone agrees with that, you're practicing grace for you.
For sure. And I wouldn't change it. I loved how I did it with Jonathan. I had the most peaceful relationship by doing that. And we got to lean in and love each other and get to know each other based on how God was leading us. And the few select wise friends were encouraging us. And so I'm like, I wouldn't change everything. So in short, that was one of the downers when I got back that I had to deal and face with. And I'll explain how I am continuing to be gracious in that after I explained the second issue, which was my family and specifically my parents, because how I am gracious towards my parents and towards those friends, it's the same practicing concept that I am towards my parents. So the second issue that came was before we went to Panama, just high level update, my parents came to visit and they had a very different perspective of what happened the weekend they were here. Some things that didn't happen became their reality. And so they're truly believing and living in a very different perspective of some events that happened that weekend. And the Monday before we went to Panama, I got a text from my mom uninviting Jonathan and his daughters to Christmas. And Christmas is like, we're, as you know, the dates are a little off. We're filming and shooting, and then we're going every week. So this date, who knows what's going to be. But we had planned to go to Christmas and had that plan for, I think, the last 3 months. And so the girls were so excited. We were so excited. And we couldn't wait to spend time with my family and my sisters and nieces and nephews. And so getting that text was already a little bit of a downer and a little bit of a cloud before we went on our trip, before the proposal. But I did my best to compartmentalize and kind of work through things and pray through some stuff and kind of understand how to handle it and what's going on. But then after we got back, there were some issues that actually became worse with that. And I had to deal with a lot of confrontation and communication and speaking truth in love and standing up for the wrongdoing of uninviting Jonathan and the girls. And so just to give you a quick update or like have you understand why the Jonathan was uninvited. My entire life with my parents, I have struggled and had a hardship of my parents not knowing how to unconditionally show up and support when people do not make decisions that are exactly what they want. And they have a certain expectation of who they want my partner to be. And when I do not meet those expectations, then I am punished unintentionally or intentionally. I don't think it's vindictive of my parents. I think that it's a struggle. I think that it's a struggle that they have, that they don't know. And this is where I'm like, oh, how do I be gracious in this? Because they don't have the tools and they don't know how to show up and be there for someone if they have a different religion. Other differences I'm not going to say on the podcast, but there's things that they just struggle with. And so fast forward, I disagree with my parents theologically on some things. They've made some secondary issues primary. And Jonathan also has some different theological beliefs as them as well. And because of that, they are struggling to include, accept, be considerate, and have us be a part of the family. And because my mom had a different reality of what happened that weekend, she kind of combined it with some of her struggles with our theological differences. And because of that, we were uninvited. So when we got back, I dealt with that. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, like, God, not again, not again, because I've had this a few times, and it's been really good the last 2 years or a year and a half. And partly moving different states was helpful to have a better boundary, and kind of just set the tone that I am going to make decisions that are different than them. And they were able to kind of navigate that a little bit better, but I also wasn't dating someone that they had some disagreements with. And just for the record, Jonathan's character and personality and everything about him is amazing and wonderful, and he leads me in the way of the Lord and is such a godly man. Their differences have nothing to do with red flags or character issues or personality stuff. It's just some theological things, and it's a part of their church that they have gone to the last, I think 7 years. And it's really affected how they relate to people and the whole concept of the Bible and going to heaven and all those things. So fast forward, how I practiced grace this week was, one, my first thought was, God, I do not want to be bitter again. I do not want to be bitter and angry again. I do not want to have a yucky heart like I did the first time, because when they did this, well, they've done it a few times, but one of the biggest rifts was with my first husband. And when that happened the first time, I responded pretty horribly. Like I did not have the kindness, the gentleness, the self-control. And it really stuck to my heart. Like the red shiny heart became like a muddy heart because I was just so angry. Like I felt rejected, abandoned, not loved, not valued. And I had struggled with that my whole life because I always felt like the sugar cookie in the gingerbread household anyway. And so when I got divorced twice, or things in my life that had happened that I just handled it differently, or I just went a different route that didn't meet expectations of a little bit of legalism and perfectionism, I always felt the rejection. And so when my first husband happened and we had a big strain and they didn't talk to me, and the same thing that's happening right now with Jonathan and I, it was like, just wrecked my heart, and it manifested physically with bad health and just my peace and all that. And so this time, like, okay, I've been here before. Not that I want to be here again, but I've been here before, and I'm like, God, how do I do this better and the godly way this time? Like, what's that balance of like good boundaries, protecting my peace, loving them, being kind, speaking truth in love? And so what really helps me with my parents and these friends is I have to remember that they're human. Yep. Like, right? Like Stacey said it so well. She talked about what grace is and how she just has to align with it. Excuse me. Hello. I think I just inhaled my perfume that was like coming off my skin. And for me, it's like, okay, I need to align with it. But my struggle is, how does it stick? How do I keep grace? How do I actually put it down and keep it down instead of having the anger and the frustration keep rising again? And so for me, it's remembering, okay, they are human. They have agency. They have free will. I have to separate them from their sin because they're different than me, right? So my friends who are giving me this feedback, they live lives that are very different from me. They have different perspectives, worldviews, experiences, right? Travel, family, friends, like they're in a completely different scenario than I'm at, right? So sometimes you want to grow with your friends. Actually, did you say this? Did you tell me this? Where like sometimes friends can't grow with you? Yes, great. I'm using Stacey's own wisdom on the podcast. I like how I totally was like, wait, where did this thought come from? So good. Anyways, and this is a perfect example. You hope that friends and family grow with you. As you go and you leave and travel and change lives and all these things, you hope that they can also be lifelong friends or lifelong family members. However, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we don't get that blessing or that privilege. And there are friends that are like, man, I really just would love to like still have you be there with me on this one, but you just grow apart. So it's remembering they have agency and free will. They're human. And also they're vessels, right? Just like Stacey and I, just like everyone else, we have two voices. We have Satan and the Holy Spirit. And so the question is, who are you going to choose? And when people hurt me that are closest to me, like my parents, right? Like I'm not going to cry. I can do this. I so badly want a restored, healthy, beautiful, life-giving, uplifting relationship with my parents. There is a very deep-rooted issue of not knowing how to deal with differences. And that is something I have to pray and have them work out between them and God, right? Like I can pray and I can, set good boundaries and I can have good, hard conversations. But I have to remember that they also are listening to two voices, right? They have a choice. Am I going to go high judgment, high control? And am I going to uninvite Sarah and Jonathan and the girls to Christmas because I don't agree with these things? Or am I going to be kind and gracious and still say, hey, I don't agree with you on these things, but we would still love to have you for Christmas. We would still love your company. We still want to be family. And so I have to remember that each person, including friends, they're not always going to listen to the Holy Spirit. Or they might truly think that this shoulder and this decision is a good decision because their perspective is different and off. And I'm just going to boldly say it. I'm sorry for the future of someone listening to this. But so in short, that really helps me have the grace aspect stick where I'm like, okay, they're human agency. They're vessels. Satan's going to either use them. He's going to use them to try and hurt me and kill, steal, and destroy. And so like when I went on our awesome vacation and got engaged, we're coming back off of a beautiful thing to be celebrated. And Satan immediately is like, I'm going to try and kill, steal, and destroy and take your peace because this is a good thing. And I don't want you and Jonathan together. You're going to be a mighty power for God's kingdom. I'm not going to let that happen. And so facing the hardship, right? I'm like, okay, like, no, forgive them. They are forgiven. They have sin. They have struggles. Just because their sin and struggle is hurting me and rejecting me and judging me and thinking that they are allowed to have access and high control over my life doesn't make that sin or that hurt any different than my sin or how I hurt people accidentally too. And so that helps me have it stick to where it's like you said, a healthy vessel. Like if you get hurt, like don't keep it in and don't have it, get stuck and become bitterness and grossness and anger. And just let it out. Like, okay, like flow like a healthy cell. Keep the, what was it you said?
Let the good stuff in, and you gotta let the bad stuff out.
Yes.
It has to come in and work itself out.
Yes.
And I'm watching you again in real time. What I'm hearing is the first time this happened didn't go that well for you either, the way you reacted. And now here you are, and I'm sorry that you're having to face it again, but here you are. All you can do is control you. And here you are taking the upper hand, say, or the bigger person in the picture right now. Hopefully they'll come along, but everybody learns in different ways in different seasons. So it just might be not yet.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of you for how you're saying, well, but this is how I can do it.
Yeah.
And I'm applying it differently than I did in the past. So go you.
Thank you. And I'm working this out in real time. And so like right now it's more of like, this is where I'm at, not so much like, here's my takeaway. It's worked, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, my asthmatic cough. I'm sorry, guys. I hate that I'm coughing in your ears, but so this is happening in real time.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be one of those things where like in a few episodes, or who knows, 6 months, it'll be more of, hey, like from this incident, this has now happened. So right now I'm just dealing with how to love them and how to be gracious and also gracious on myself and remember the days that I am a little more angry or having a problem, being like, okay, no, like change, move to conviction, right? Or conviction, move to change. Because there's also some heavy themes and topics I'm struggling with right now as I move into a season of marrying Jonathan, because I'm now going, okay, I don't have family support. I don't feel like I have family anymore. What are holidays going to look like? Do I now need to for sure have friends become family for Christmas and Thanksgiving and 4th of July? And, the idea of having like grandparents around barbecues, like that may not happen. And so like, I'm really working through like mourning the loss of potentially not having that, but still trying to make sure that Jonathan knows how much I love him and I support him and that I choose him. And also just moving into a blended family. And as we've talked about, like there's dynamics with that are so hard, but also so rewarding and so beautiful. So there's just like a heaviness this week. And I feel like in this unfortunate like season, I'm hoping it's a short season. But it's just like, okay, like I told him, I was like, Satan's working overtime. He will not win. Suck it, Satan. We will celebrate our engagement.
Dang it.
I was like, no, look at my pretty sparkling ring. This is good. Anyways.
Well, I know that is a perfect flow into how are you preparing into this next flow and this next phase of, okay, parts of that suck and parts of it you're remaining hopeful.
I like the emphasis.
And so can you share with me the grace lesson you learned back in 2021 and explain a little bit more on the triangle and expand what is that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, totally.
How does it help you?
Totally. So in 2021, I was asked to speak to the divorce group that I volunteered at. Initially, I was a participant, and then I volunteered. Well, you'll hear it in the letter I wrote or the story I wrote to them. But and it is where I realized an aha moment of owning my part in my marriage. And so I'm going to read the letter first, then I'm going to dive deep into how it relates to being gracious on myself and how to, when I say be a better wife or a better partner, it is not in a striving way. It's in a godly, I want to honor God and I want to be a godly wife way. And that's when like, I really could have been better. So I'm going to quickly read this story and then we'll dive into how it relates to grace. Okay, here we go. Hey, y'all. I initially showed up to this group hoping to volunteer and help. God had put it on my heart to get involved. I thought I could help young women who had been divorced since I had now been divorced twice by 30. My initial intention was to see if I could help give women hope, encouragement, and to stand alongside them, letting them know it does get better. That they will laugh again and they will have an abundant life. And God isn't done writing their beautiful story. It was week 3 for you guys and I came a little late, so I didn't get to talk to Nancy until after to ask them if they needed volunteers. Well, after the first session, I started to feel God nudge me and say, hey, actually, I want you to participate in this class first. The second week rolled around and I found myself running to the car uncontrollably to sob, pray, and feel wounds reopen, new wounds that I had never felt before, wounds about reflecting on my marriage. The last 2.5 years after my second divorce, I went on a journey with God, a journey to get healthy and whole in Christ as Sarah Hennihan, but I hadn't sailed the uncharted waters of Sarah and her role in her marriage, or as Pastor Inez said it, Sarah acknowledging her part. Each week I felt like arrows were piercing my heart, opening it up to vulnerability, reflection on my marriage, and eventually softening my heart. The content of her session moved me to conviction, and I finally acknowledged my part and understood God's grace. You see, the last 10 years, as I told my testimony of married and divorced twice, the story usually went like this. I got married young. The first husband was a sociopath and con artist who used me for his double life. And the second one, the love of my life, got in a horrible car accident a few months before we got married, which eventually caused him to self-destruct, and he walked away from our marriage. After Inez's session of owning your part, understanding and accepting God's grace, and reconciling, how I tell my story has changed drastically just within a few weeks. You see, up until our session, I didn't think I had done anything wrong and that I was the victim in my 2 divorces. The first one, owning my part, meant admitting I knew I should never have married this man. I had red flags, I was unhealthy, and I married him anyway. With the second, I was floored with conviction after I saw the triangle with God on top and his and her on either side. My eyes welled up in tears and I began to have deep sorrow. God gave me a series of examples and downloads within those few minutes that continued through the week of ways I missed the mark. The week? Oh, continued throughout the week of ways I missed the mark. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I didn't keep God first and I strived at a human level. I hurt my second ex-husband emotionally and I could have taken better care of his heart. For 1 week straight, I sobbed daily and my parents came down to hold me as I just cried enough tears to solve California's drought. Regardless of how my husband treated me or hurt me, I should have put God at the top of the triangle and focused on me and my relationship with Jesus versus going sideways. I burnt out in my second marriage because I didn't have unconditional or godly love to give. Had I done that, I could have lovingly, tenderly, and sweetly cared for my husband in the middle of his hurt and pain. I was prideful and selfish and defensive instead of understanding, harsh instead of patient. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. During this same week, I felt God put on my heart to reconcile with both of my ex-husbands and show love and grace. And when I felt that nudge, I initially laughed and said, yeah, right. The first one was a sociopath and the second one left me. Well, it's funny how God works. Through a series of dreams, confirmations, Bible verses, and this recovery group, it was prevalent that God wanted me to reconcile, take ownership of my part, apologize, and make amends. So I did. I unblocked both numbers from my phone and reached out. I am just going to talk about the reconciliation of my second ex-husband for this time's sake. After I texted my second husband, I texted my second husband and I asked if he'd be open to a phone call where I wished to reconcile. I was blown away by his response. It was friendly and welcoming. We had a FaceTime call where I went with no expectations, and yet I had 6 pages worth of things that I had messed up on. After I apologized, I was shocked with his response. He ended up also apologizing for leaving me and not giving us more time and letting me know he had listened to Satan the last part of our marriage and was so sorry. We proceeded to talk through so many other things that brought so much more freedom. We laughed on the call, owned our part, were remorseful, and it was just life-changing. Husband number 2 ended up telling me that our phone call lifted 1,000 pounds off his shoulders, brought so much healing for him, and that he wants to continue to get healthy and work through some demons that he is still battling. The point of mentioning this is that it connects to love and grace. What did this mean for me? It meant treating my second husband with love and grace and forgiving him, even when my feelings of the flesh initially did not want to give. I am so thankful God threw darts at my heart and pierced it wide open to vulnerability during this 8-week course, because by doing that, I was able to have a phone call that brought so much healing to my soul and my ex-husband's. I never thought this would happen while I was alive, and now I have so much more freedom and peace. I'm ready for that new wineskin. I am ready to get rid of the old and replace it with the new so that God can continue to reveal growth, strongholds, and weaknesses that I can give to him and accept his grace through them. What I thought would be me trying to help and encourage young women in divorce resulted in me being healed in ways I didn't know I even needed healing in. Reconciliation and freedom. I am so thankful for God's grace, and that because of his grace, I can admit my imperfections, sin, and mistakes. Love and grace are key. Forgiveness is freedom. Our hurts will turn into joy. It will get better. God is writing all of our stories, and our futures are filled with beauty and peace. Take hope, for he has overcome the world. And there's a 1 John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. And so I share this letter because it really summarizes my heart of how I messed up and how I want to be a godly woman in my forever marriage with Jonathan, and the grace that I need to extend to myself to then make those changes. The biggest one is that triangle. And for the sake of time, I won't go into the rest of the details, but I want to just really focus on the triangle and where I missed the mark. And God is at the top, your husband's on the left, and the wife's on the right, or interchangeable, it doesn't matter. But what I am learning on how to be gracious to myself is that now that I messed up in my second marriage, and I did not put God first, and I did not get on my knees sooner, and I did not pray for him spiritually and go to battle spiritually on his behalf and stand the gap and intercede and all of those things, I now know the importance of doing that for Jonathan and for myself, and making sure I am wrapping our relationship in prayer, that I am putting God first always, that when we have a conflict or an issue, I am going straight to God first and being like, God, hey, Jonathan and I have this disagreement, or we're not on the same page. Can you please either tenderize his heart and change his heart, or change mine, align it with your will, align it with what we're supposed to do. And I've practiced that in our relationship dating, and it's actually worked, and it's been so beautiful. And on another episode, we can talk about all those beautiful miracles that have happened from that. But that is one of the ways that grace and conviction moved me to change. And that's how, in preparing to now be married to Jonathan, that's something that I'm really, truly meditating on and making a huge priority in our relationship. And then on top of that, just in my second marriage, I had anger issues and I drank too much, and making sure, and granted, I've gotten a lot of healing from the anger, and I've changed my drinking lifestyle tremendously. It's very little now, and making sure that when I speak to Jonathan, I always keep my heart and my mouth in check, and that I am not being angry, and I'm not sinning in my anger, because that does so much damage. And really knowing the weight of the consequences of losing your marbles and saying things you shouldn't say, or throwing things you shouldn't throw, and all those things. And so in short, that's the grace towards myself portion of, I made some big mistakes and I needed to accept God's forgiveness so that I can change. And I'm encouraged that I get to, now that I've practiced that, I can actually fulfill how God really wants a marriage to be. And then I can act that out.
Well, I just want to acknowledge the letter that you wrote, because that takes such humility. And you did that in front of people, and now sharing it with all the listeners out here who will ever hear this, because I mean, what an example of humility and grace to yourself, but also it shows that you are not trying to hurt anybody. You're not trying to hurt your parents in what you do or don't do, but mistakes we make or they make or any of us make in our lives, it just simply is our own journey.
Yeah.
And I can hear and see in your heart that you just want to be accepted and loved, like you want to love and accept them with all of our mess ups and all of our weaknesses. And that's really what makes family. We're all different. You're given them. We don't get to choose those. We are given them. So I'm just so proud of you. And my hope is that as the healing happens, that they'll remember who you are and that they're so blessed to have you, and vice versa. And so I'll wrap up with this. When family fails you, grace won't. When partners fail you, grace won't. When friends fail you, grace won't. And rejection doesn't rewrite God's acceptance. Clinging to truth that you can always find unconditional and forever acceptance in God's love toward you, that is not conditional. You can rest in Him and snuggle up to Him, knowing He catches all of your tears and pain and rejection. And humans failing you on this earth might happen, but God won't. So with that, that is episode 22. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
This is O.P.O.P, Operation Protect Our Peace. Hey, Joy Stealers.
We're coming for you.